So first of all, besides being a medical doctor, I'm also a professional model, and I also volunteer for a lot of causes.
Okay.
That's important to the story.
Great.
So I am an advocate as well, and I have a lot of passions and missions that I try to advance. So as a model, I was signed to an agency. I'm still signed to them.
Okay.
And I was there at a point, and then my manager told me about this pageant that she thought I would be a great fit for. So she told me about it. She said I was going to be registered for it at some point in time. So I decided to look through the name, what they stood for and all that. And I decided to apply to join. So I went through the application process, the online application process, and then I was told I had made it through. I was added to a group, and then they outlined the criteria and everything that I would have to do. So I decided, sure, I can do this, and went for it. So after some months, we started online, so we were given tasks to do. So you'd have a task every week,
Okay.
and then you'd submit it online, and then based on their criteria would have the best task for the week. So this went on for a while, and then after that we were housed for a period of 3 weeks to prepare for the grand finale. So that also happened, and the prize was a car,
Okay.
fully funded trip to represent Ghana in the International Miss Intercontinental Pageant, and then free wardrobe allowance during the international pageant.
Okay.
And then they were also going to sponsor you with your project as well. And there was also to be a cash prize. So I went through on the grand finale. I was announced as the winner, and I was crowned Miss Intercontinental Ghana 2025 on 8th of November 2025. So
just this last November.
That was about 4 months ago.
4 months ago.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was crowned, and then I was placed in the car and driven back to the house where we were kept. So we did some thank you tours, and then I went home because I had to go back to work. I'd taken my leave to do that. So we did the thank you tours. I went back to work, and then I was given the forms to fill. But before that, one very interesting thing that happened was that the day after the pageant, I went to bed at about 3 a.m. So by 6 a.m. I was up, and I decided to scroll through my phone and see what was going on. And then I opened Twitter, and I saw that I had been tagged in some videos. So I figured, people must be congratulating me or something of the sort. So I checked what was happening, and that was not what I saw. The comments were very terrible. And for someone who had just won something that I had worked for, I kept staring at the comments. And I know Twitter. I've actually been on Twitter before. I'd had to delete my account because of something, and I decided to come back to Twitter. And I know Twitter. So initially it hurts, but then I was like, okay, it's just Twitter. People on Twitter are doing this. Then I opened TikTok, where I usually go to be happy, to watch funny videos. Once again, I saw my video. It was an interview that had been done immediately after I won.
Okay.
So by that time I had cried, I'd done vigorous performances and all that. The makeup had out. And if you know anything about makeup, basically just applying things on your face.
Yeah.
So it looked weird. The lighting was terrible, and the angle and all that. So that video was taken by the official blogger for the pageant, and he uploaded it. That's Besa GH. I don't know if I can ever get him out of my heart. I'm still praying about it, but that thing seemed very personal, and it's very hard to let that go, to be very honest. Maybe if he ever finds
you
this
thought
out,
it was intentional for him to post that video?
For another reason, actually. So I felt it was intentional, and with the caption that was attached. So when he asked me
what did he write?
When he asked me how
Okay.
I felt about it, I mentioned that I joined the pageant because I wanted people to understand that beauty included brains, and both of them were not two polar opposites. He captioned it and said, she is very excited. She did not expect to win, and she's happy because beauty is about brains. So he twisted it to make it seem like I was saying I knew I wasn't beautiful and yet I had won. And people in the comments piggybacked on that and called me a lot of very interesting names. I learned a new word that day, mukui. Apparently it's the slang for a very unattractive person. People said I looked like a fish. I looked like a lot of things. I looked like a frog. Someone in the comments was like, imagine all the beautiful ladies watching this mukui go away with their crown. And I felt, I don't know, I don't think I have the words to describe how I felt. It was terrible because these were strangers who did not know me from anywhere, and they highlighted some things about me. There are things that sometimes I had already felt insecure about, and I had taken years of work to get over some of these insecurities. And then in one night, after achieving something I'd worked so hard for, people brought all those insecurities back by highlighting them. Someone said my mouth was too wide, looked weird, and the way I even talk was some way. And then the people that felt they were doing the damage control also came. So some people were tagging me and saying that oh, don't talk to her like that, she's a doctor, and oh, she's very intelligent. And it sounded a lot like, oh, okay, mom, she's ugly, but because she's a doctor, let's just let the fact that she's ugly go. And people were in the comments like, oh, she's a very kind person. And it felt rather ironic because it seemed to me like they were saying, if it had been anyone else, maybe if it had happened to someone who was not a doctor, or someone who was not kind, or someone who was, what was the other thing they said? Someone who was not intelligent, then it would have been okay. And it didn't feel right to me. I remember thinking about it and asking the organizers who were now supposed to take over as my management. I spoke to them and they said, oh, as a beauty queen, it's normal. People will always talk about you in very different ways. And I asked, okay, but can we get them to take it down? And they said, oh, besa GHD, so they will try to get them to take it down. This video was up for months, actually. I think it went down everywhere in January, but recently I even saw it resurface because other people took it and reposted.
They downloaded it.
So yes, so I've seen it resurface on my timeline on TikTok and on Twitter. I don't know if it's still up on Twitter. I haven't bothered to check because I don't want to re-traumatize myself. Because I did something quite terrible. I read every comment, every quote. I looked at everything that people said. And I've mentioned that I'm a medical doctor. I have a very good memory because I have to look at people and remember things. I've memorized textbooks. So everything that people said is still in my head. I still remember all those things. And sometimes it comes back at the most inconvenient time. So I say that people compliment me these days and I feel like they're mocking me because it's there. And when I at some points when I started posting on Instagram again, people would come into my comments and be, Queen, you look so good, and I would be thinking, are you people forming a pity party? Is that what this is? I remember speaking to some of my friends about it and I just kept thinking, is this pity? I don't know, because it's different. It's like my idea of reality is a bit distorted. People keep saying I'm strong because of the way I've handled it, but it's not that easy. And Miss Nanaba would really attest. Sometimes I send her messages in the middle of the night because as I'm speaking, I'm talking very slowly and pacing myself because I don't want to break down again. Honestly, I think I've been emotional enough. But so after that happened, the organizers, we had to prepare for international. So I let that go. Then we had to prepare for the international pageant. I had everything on lock because I hadn't actually gone into the Ghanaian one. So I went in seeing the future. So I had already made those plans. All that was left was to present them and fill the forms. And then one evening it was about 4 p.m., a Friday evening, I was there and the vice president of the organization called me. And after the exchanging pleasantry, she said, Chiaky, we want to meet you and your parents. So kindly let them know it's an emergency meeting. And I asked, what's it about? And they said, oh, it's not a phone conversation. So I was a bit worried. And I called my mom because I didn't want to involve my dad. We like to involve daddies when it gets more serious.
Yeah.
So I called my mom initially, and then and for the record, I'm very glad I didn't involve daddy in the beginning because this could have escalated very quickly. People keep saying my mother is very, but my dad, you don't touch his beloved and get away with it. But anyway, so we went for that meeting. It was a Sunday evening. I closed from work and immediately rushed over for that meeting. And they emphasized that when I'm coming, I should bring my crown and my sash. That's when I got fully suspicious because they said it was an official meeting, so I should bring my crown and sash. And I initially I was suspicious, but then I felt there must be something fishy. So I went with my mom. We sat, we introduced ourselves, and then because my mom did not know them, and then they gave me a printed email. So I read the email, and it referred to some calls that had been made in the past. I didn't know which calls those were, and they said they have received complaints.
Calls to who?
Calls between the management and the organizers, the international organizers.
All
That's what the email was apparently from, and apparently the international organizers were saying that they have received some messages, emails from concerned people saying that I do not meet their standards for the international pageant. And based on this, they have made the decision to disqualify me. And I had not, as at that point in time, I had not officially submitted my registration to the international body. So I found that very weird because if I haven't applied, where do you know me from? How do you know me to talk about not meeting standards? At least let me apply first and then see my application and see that. So that was something I found suspicious. And then again, I asked them, okay, which standards do I not meet? So they gave me a document, a page from a document that mentioned poise, beauty, charm, intelligence, and body. And with all these things, they were very subjective. The only objective ones were they said you should be a natural born female. I am a natural born female. You should also be fully a national of the country you're representing. I am fully Ghanaian. So the only other things, and then the body, they had body requirements, the height and physical. Yes, I also meet their standards. So the others were the subjective ones, which were mostly beauty, poise, and charm. And they made a statement. The president was joined by us on call via Zoom. So she made a statement. She said, and some model dear, you can't be a model. When you panacra to me, international phone say, would you who I won't say obi cra or your model. She made that statement. And she also said that when they went through my Instagram page, they were not impressed with what they saw. They didn't like the looks, and then also they didn't think I was doing a lot of work, which is why from the very beginning I mentioned my advocacy and all of that, because I do a lot of this work in Ghana and internationally. So I've done a lot of that. So I was very confused as to what was going on. So I asked them why they hadn't fought this, because they appointed me.
Exactly.
So it's even disrespectful. Anyway, they told me they were going to do that and all that. And I drafted an email for them. I actually drafted an email, tried to put two and two together and all that. And then some days later, we started exchanging emails. So our communication was now via emails and texts. And then the tone of their emails started getting very hostile. It looked like they were always looking for a way to throw me under the bus. And I kept escaping because it was work. So the tone kept getting hostile, and then at some point they started ignoring me. So I mailed them to follow up on what was going on. They started ignoring me about that. And then I downloaded all the emails and sent them to them on WhatsApp. Okay. Also no response. The next thing I heard from them, they sent an email saying that unfortunately, they have decided that they can no longer continue to work with me, and because that's supposed international said, and they don't want to lose their franchise to host a pageant, and they think other women should have the opportunity. So I should return the crown. They gave me 2 days to return the crown and the sash to a location and to the vice president. I saw that email. I did not respond. I just started looking for a lawyer because I felt this was unfair.
So the crown is still with you?
Yes.
And the sash?
Yes.
Okay.
But they've made a new one anyway. We'll get to that. So the next morning, I was once again scrolling through Instagram at about 10 a.m. and then I saw a message, official message saying press release. We would like to say that Miss Chiaky Otuteye has, Dr. Chiaky Otuteye, and Miss Chiaky has been dethroned as queen. We no longer associate with her because of unforeseen circumstances. And once again, in the comments were these bloggers laughing, mocking, trying to... People even posted on their stories very terrible stuff. And then there were also my supporters talking about how all of this was unfair and how they owed an explanation. And they started blocking all my supporters. So if you commented saying what you are doing to Chiaky is unfair, they would delete your comments and then they would block you. So they started complaining about it. So they decided to use the new repost feature and then post on their stories and all that. But a lot of my fans, people who supported me, have been blocked by the organization for speaking up. Then about 2 days later, I see a new press release that they had appointed a new queen and she would be representing them. All this while, there has been no communication with me. So I found out about their new queen also on their social media, with people congratulating them and all that.